Hello and welcome! Today, we're diving into an essential part of English grammar verbs. In English, verbs are the heart of every sentence because they tell us what the subject is doing or what state they're in. But did you know that verbs come in different types? Let's explore them one by one.
First, let's look at action verbs. These verbs show what the subject is doing, the action or activity they're performing. For example, she runs every morning. The verb runs shows the action that she is performing. Other examples of action verbs include eat, write, play, speak.
Next, we have stative verbs. These verbs describe a state or condition, not an action. They're used to express things like thoughts, emotions, or relationships. For example, I know the answer. The verb know shows a state of knowledge, not an action. Other examples include belong, feel, love, seem.
Now, let's talk about transitive verbs. These verbs need an object to complete their meaning. In other words, they transfer the action to someone or something. For example, she gave him a gift. The verb gave needs the object a gift to make sense. Without the object, the sentence wouldn't be complete. Other examples of transitive verbs include bring, send, make, teach.
On the other hand, intransitive verbs don't need an object. These verbs can stand alone and still make sense. For instance, he laughed loudly. The verb laughed doesn't need an object to complete the meaning. It's perfectly fine on its own. Other examples include sleep, arrive, run, laugh.
Next up, we have linking verbs. These verbs connect the subject of a sentence to a subject complement, which could be a noun or an adjective that describes the subject. The most common linking verb is be. For example, the sky is blue. The verb is links the subject, the sky, to the complement blue. Other common linking verbs include seem, become, appear.
Now, let's take a look at auxiliary verbs, also known as helping verbs. These verbs don't stand alone. Instead, they help other verbs form different tenses, moods, or voices. For example, he has finished her homework. The verb has helps form the present perfect tense, showing that the action is complete. Other auxiliary verbs include have, do, be.
Let's talk about modal verbs. Modal verbs are used to express possibility, necessity, permission, or ability. For instance, you must study for the test. The verb must expresses necessity. Other modal verbs include can, may, should, might, will.
Finally, we have phrasal verbs. These are combinations of verbs and prepositions or adverbs that together have a different meaning from the individual words. For example, I gave up smoking last year. The phrasal verb gave up means to quit. Other examples include look after, take care of, take off, become airborne, turn down, refuse.
To sum up, verbs are the action-packed core of sentences, and knowing the different types helps us communicate more clearly. Remember, there are action verbs, stative verbs, transitive verbs, intransitive verbs, linking verbs, auxiliary verbs, modal verbs, phrasal verbs. Thanks for joining us today. Now go ahead and try using different types of verbs in your own sentences. Keep practicing, and soon you'll be a verb expert.